Episode 56 of the Rated RR podcast. Rish Roshan right here alongside my usual co-host Siaul Raushan. Raushan, how are you doing?
I'm good, Rosh. I'm good. Looks like the season is just going to stop for a bit of a break, but it means the national team are in action. So lots of exciting football to look forward to. And speaking of exciting football, I think we've got an exciting guest lined up today.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a fun one and certainly a very insightful one. I'm very excited and very happy to say that we have Balestier Khalsa's head coach, Akbar Nawas, joining us on this week's episode of the show. Akbar, thank you so much for taking the time to come and speak to us. How are you doing? How's everything with you over at Toa Payoh Stadium?
Well, everything is fine. We just had our session ended today, and it's always good to be on this kind of shows to have those talks with you guys.
Well, yeah, look, we're looking forward to getting straight into it. Raushan, why don't you kick things off?
Coach, once again, thank you so much for joining us. You talk about it, finishing training and joining us. I want to talk about your time at Balestier thus far. How do you rate your first few months at Balestier Khalsa?
Well, it's not as what I wish for in terms of results, most definitely. In terms of performance, it's improving on a game-to-game basis. A lot of inconsistencies, especially the first few games. The way I felt that we are still not playing the way that we want to play. It's still the old Balestier of trying, to no disrespect to the old Balestier, of trying, just to get rub and drop kind of goals and all that, not trying to construct the play. But the last few games, I've seen some positives in the way we are trying to play. So I hope it continues on like that.
You mentioned those positives. What exactly are those that you've seen from the team that you're quite happy with?
Because especially the last couple of games, we tried to, we always wanted to play off on the back, but that's because we want to invite pressure. The players started to believe that they could actually play the game this way to construct the attack. We are still very much lacking in terms of when we do construct the attack, especially in our last game. We were nowhere to be seen in the attacking third. There was not enough combination play. There was not enough chances created. So these are all lacking in our gameplay still. So we need to very much improve on that if we want to garner the results.
Coach, you touched on it there in terms of inconsistency, sometimes playing well, sometimes not playing well. Were you almost expecting this when you took on this project? Like, it will take time, you know what I mean?
For sure. But it is something that I do pressure myself and the players also, that time should not be an excuse for us. Yes, definitely we are inconsistent in the way that we want to play in this kind of system, but we have to try to get there. We have to try to smack ourselves in the head. We cannot give ourselves any excuses. We just have to keep on trying and trying, no matter how hard it is. So yeah, definitely I expected this for sure. And I know it's going to be tough. And when I was first appointed, I had the podcast with Final Whistle. I did mention there'll be a lot of bitter pills to swallow. And Balestier have to accept that, and anybody who's watching us.
What do you think are some of the challenges that lie ahead? You've been in the job for close to maybe 6 months now? Is that safe to say?
Yes.
What do you expect? What are difficulties you expect moving forward with this team?
Well, sometimes the fear of losing, the fear of playing this way, and or that you can't afford to lose, because everybody expects that since they took Akbar Nawas as the coach. They expect Akbar Nawas to do some magic. They expect Akbar Nawas to bring Balestier, and then, because I did it with Chennai City, so they expect Akbar Nawas to do something like this. But it doesn't happen like that always in football, especially. So for me, the expectations are there, but we need to manage it. And I need to manage it with the players. There'll be expectations from stakeholders, sponsors, management. But for me, to the players, they must know that I'm always interested to see their performance. Results will come, for sure. And that is for me to handle it.
Yeah, Akbar, I want to actually dive deeper into that, because you mentioned that word fear. And it's completely understandable, right? If players have been brought up in a development system that coaches them to play one style of football, and maybe there's a fear of losing, it's very hard to sort of reshape that mental structure. How challenging is it then for you as a coach to sort of do that? And how do you go about it? How do you go about sort of rewiring that mindset?
You got it spot on. You really got it spot on, Nishan. This thing we have to do in training. And in training, you can see it, especially when you put pressure on the on the players during training, and the fear of losing, you can see it from there. And then during the games, you definitely can see it. But you just have to keep on repeating, keep on being tough in training, keep on demanding. Because the moment if I stop demanding in training, then the learning curve won't be there. It's difficult to bring them to another level. So for me, if they are level 5, can I bring them to 5.5, 5.6, 5.7, and keep on bringing them up? Even the foreigners, if they are level 7, it's my job to bring them to level 8. I'm just not happy if it's a Kondo or Riora or Jumbo, they play this way and they're not doing something else. No, I have to improve them also. So the fear of losing has to start from training itself. And it's a lot of work. It's really, really, really a lot of work to press the undo button.
Coach, in terms of pressing the undo button, rewiring people, right? You say training, but I'm curious to know, is that just group training, or do you spend a lot of time one-on-one as well, speaking to players to convince them and win them over?
Of course. This one-on-one meetings almost on a daily basis is what we've been doing for the whole since pre-season. Because without this, it's difficult, because sometimes you want to play this way, and what if you end up losing every time? That's what happened when we got trashed in the initial part of the season. So we had to take the games against Geylang and Hougang. And when there were times we were not playing the way that I wanted to, so I had to balance myself. Okay, let's get the results first. Let's bring some confidence in first. And then we talk to the players again. Sometimes as a coach, yes, I'm quite a hard man to please in terms of the way that I want to play. But sometimes to balance it, maybe you need to give some confidence, get some results first, balance it, and then we go again. Because start of the season, we didn't play the way that we wanted to, and we still lost. So when we got that result, okay, slowly I can build again. So it's a lot of stop-starts in terms of building this process as well.
Yeah, and I think the results as well in coaching circles, results buy you a bit of time, right? They take a bit of pressure on off your shoulders and off the shoulders of the players as well. Can I just ask you, Akbar, in terms of when you see your vision of how you want your teams to play, can you tell us what is an Akbar Nawas team? What is an Akbar Nawas style of play?
You see, I've learned a lot with watching Pep or Klopp or whatsoever, how they started to build up teams, and myself as when I was playing, I love to build up from the back. But I love to watch, my vision, my philosophy at the end of the day. When I go to a game, I know there's things called game coaching, the art of coaching the game. I want to one day go to a game with my team and then have a cup of tea and sit on the bench for 90 minutes. Then I would have thought I've done my job. That is my philosophy. That means I've done something in training. Until that, I've not done enough. That means I have to stand at the sideline and shout for 90 minutes, which I'm doing now. That means I've not done enough in training. I've not done enough to teach them. There's still a lot of lacking, which I don't think so is always the player's fault. I believe sometimes I really need to dig into myself and see I've not taught them enough, because they don't seem to be able to be independent. So I still got to help them from the sidelines. So my job, my philosophy is to make sure I teach my players so that they can react to the dynamic situation that the game is all about. They can make those decisions themselves. That's a dream for me.
Coach, so how do you have a timeline for yourself in terms of that dream? What were you working towards? How far along are you on that process?
For me, it's always 3 years. Like the first year, I want to see the team, how is it set up? Am I good defensively? Am I good offensively? Or is it a balance? And what I need to teach? And then the second year, I just want them to be brave in possession first. To be brave. And then the final year to teach them how to be effective in possession. Then, of course, the final year, we must get the results. No more process.
Akbar, you mentioned playing out from the back and all that. And this is something I had personally had doubts about with Balestier Khalsa coming into this year's campaign. Not necessarily to do with your coaching style or the players or anything, but the pitch at Toa Stadium. To me, I was a player there. I played there many times. I got injured on that surface. I was just thinking, how on earth are they going to do this? You know what I mean?
You know what? I also think about that too.
I think there was a start of the season where the goalkeeper kicked it. It bobbled up quite wildly, and I was like, oh no, what's happening here?
The game against Tampines, I think the very first few minutes, Akil, played the ball back goalkeeper and we almost scored their own goal.
Yes.
And I was like, wow. Killing from the back. No, I mean, in Toa Payoh, I try not to put the pressure on my players to insist on building up.
Yeah.
I have them let the leeway. I give them the leeway. Because you see, even Albrecht came to play here in Toa Payoh. Not a single time they build up. And every time they got the ball, they just kick. Yeah. And we must understand that. We must understand the pitch condition. We must try to understand that. And sometimes, as bullheaded as I am, I have to understand that also. And I have to give that leeway to the players. They have to, if sometimes they have to play it long, play it long. They have to make difference between safety and risk. But if you go on an artificial pitch, I'm a bit more forceful with them in terms of, hey, let's play the game.
Yeah. Yeah, and I imagine that presents challenges to you in terms of your coaching and wanting to even impart that philosophy of yours, right? Because you don't even have a good quality pitch to train on. So you want to say pass out from the back, that has to come down in training. But if you don't even have that quality of surface to play on, I don't expect an answer from you, by the way, because I don't want to get you into trouble, right? So I'll say it because I think it's been years and years and years that Toa Payoh Stadium pitch, something needs to be done about that. I don't know why it's fallen on deaf ears, because it is actually dangerous as well for players. Okay, that's my rant. Akbar, you don't have to say anything. We can quickly move on to the next thing.
maybe we need a new podcast called Roshan Rants, because that's not the first time I've heard him rant about the Toa Payoh Stadium. No, Coach Akbar, I just want to quickly ask you about this, right? It seems you are very understanding of situations. You say you have a philosophy, but sometimes you are willing for your players to break out a mold. You say that may be because of the opponent or the playing surface. I just want to understand, how important do you think that is to be nimble enough from a coaching perspective rather than be stubborn? You know what I mean?
You see, it has to be a 70-30 for me. Stubbornness about 70%. The way that I want to play, yeah. Because if I'm not stubborn on it, then where do I land myself? Then I'm neither here nor there. But the 30% must be there, because we got to be realistic at times with what we are trying to do. We've got to be realistic in the game situation also. Like probably against Albrecht. We know that we lost the first game 6-0. And then up to 85th minute, it was 1-1 if I'm not wrong. So we have to be realistic that, hey, 1-1, okay, from the past results, maybe a draw would be good for us. And should we have just kept that draw instead of trying to go for a win? As opposed to the same situation I had when I was in Chennai. We were playing Mohenbagan in front of the 40,000 crowd. It was 1-1. But I took the risk to go and win the game. But it was a different situation because we were dominating the game. We were dominating possession. It was end-to-end, but we controlled the game. So that decision depends on that situation. I said, no, let's go and win the game. And we won 2-1. You get what I mean? It depends on the game situation, actually, even though you want to be stubborn with what you believe in. For me,
Akbar, when you look at your own team and you analyze it from the outsider's perspective, I look at the table, I see Balestier Khalsa, 26 goals conceded. It's the worst in the league this season. And you've also scored 14. And a lot of those goals, the only local goal scorer you've had is Gareth Lowe, who scored 1 goal. The rest all have come from the foreigners. Is that something that you sort of think about? Is that something you look to try and address?
You see, the game model that we started, we wanted 3 up front, for sure. I mean, whether the 2 will be playing behind the number 9, whether they are playing 8, 10 or 7, 11. Definitely the goals will come from them. As for me, and when we bring in foreign attackers, we want this out of them. But now, as trying to improve the foreigners to another level, how I would like the local players is to try and complement them and upgrade their level to go as close as possible. So we have one side where they're pushing the bar and the rest got to follow, got to keep up following. I hope it doesn't come to a stage where it's balanced, then I'm in trouble. Then I'm in trouble because then the team will stagnate. So I hope we still maintain that part. I'm not talking about the number of goals they scored, but in terms of the performance. The foreigners keep there, and then my locals got to pick up. And then, of course, if it can be where my locals is higher than the foreigners, well, why not? And then we complement the team together. For me, I don't really believe that there has to be 2 camps in terms of the local and the foreigners. We try to get it as one, even though from outside point of view, we can see there's a distinct difference in terms of abilities and capabilities. But it is where we try to garner each other's strength and hopefully improve on their weaknesses.
Coach, you touched on it there, the Japanese players and how you already had a system in mind, right? Number 9 up front, supported by 2 players. Then my question is, did you already early on, when you were talking to Balestier, identify Ryoya and Kuraba as your targets for those positions?
I spoke to especially Darwin that this is the game model we wanted to play, and he did mention about Ryoya and Kondo amongst other names, and definitely these were the players that would fit together with what we have with Jumbo, because I need to work around Jumbo, because if we already have Jumbo, Hoshino as what his name is, we need to work around it. If not, if I were to choose players and I don't work around him, then I will spoil his game as well. Yes, definitely this was a model, and Darwin helped us to get these players.
Yeah, they've been. Sorry, Josh. I was just going to say they've been fantastic. I was just going to say they've been excellent. Taniguchi last season was one of my favorites. I thought he should have won young player of the year with his performances, and he's showing with Balestier as well. Kuraba Kondo excellent with the ball, and Hoshino now playing as that number 9, his favorite position.
Yeah. So when you spoke to Hoshino, that's the point I wanted to bring up as well. Hoshino or Jumbo. Last season, maybe in the shadows a bit with the out-and-out goal scorer. This season, he's back into his number 9 position. Was he as excited to reclaim that spot in the team?
Oh, definitely. When we spoke to him, he was beaming. His face was lighting up, because I think that is where he excels. He loves the link-up play. He loves to be in and around the box. He loves to do his stuff, get inside the box and scoring goals. I think that's what he is. But for him to be in midfield, I don't think so. He's built for it in terms of the energy system. I think he's much more of a target player, but who can link up play.
Akbar, can I ask you? You're incredibly charismatic, wonderful personality, great to speak to.
Thank you.
And sometimes I think some of us have noticed this in the pre-match interviews as well. What's your approach with these pre-match interviews? Going in and speaking to journalists, because you seem very relaxed, very chill, cracking a few jokes here and there. Is that intentional?
Because for me, I try to keep myself calm and to make sure I'm composed, because we are trying something new. And I want my players to have that kind of effect. Yes, we want to be serious when we focus, but not overdoing it until we can't play the way that we want to play. But sometimes I like to take a dig at the other coaches. I think they know me quite well. I like to disturb them, like in my previous pre-match conference against Tampines, I ended up by saying, if Tampines don't beat us today, I don't know what to say. And when I met Farah and Gavin, I told them that. They were like, what? You said that?
So a bit of mind games, is it, Coach? A bit of mind games, getting under their skin a little before kickoff, is it?
Yeah, I learned this from India.
I think it's excellent.
Yeah.
I love the showing so much character, right? I mean, with all due respect to different coaches, some of them give you copy and paste answers. You know what I mean? It's the usual, we'll try our best, we'll aim to play our football. But it's nice to be that candid and charismatic, like Roshan said. Coach, just moving on to the season itself, Balestier midway through round 2 now, got 2.5 more rounds to go. What are the aims for Balestier Khalsa this season?
We definitely try to, like, for example, each round we want to get a certain number of points, maybe 10, maybe 12. It depends on how we go along and how we change it along. Obviously, you see, every coach or everybody will say that they want to win the game. They want the 3 points. But I guess everybody can say that, right? Nobody goes to a game to lose. Nobody goes to a game, even players themselves. Nobody goes there and says they don't want the 3 points. I'm trying to do away with this in terms of telling the norm to the players. Its standard is obvious. We're always going to win. So for Balestier, for myself, we want to go there and up our performance in terms of the stats. If you're making 400 over passes, can we increase? If you're making only 6 chances per game, can we get up to 9? If you're only making killer passes, maybe 5 or 6, can we improve on that? I only want to improve in these 3 areas and the shots on goal. These are the most key for me to improve so that we can get there to play the way we want to play.
And Akbar, the transfer window is coming up. Any plans to reinforce the squad to help you with that?
I don't know. I might transfer myself. But so far, no plans. No plans as yet during the windows.
I half suspected Abba wouldn't give us much as well.
You're trying to squeeze out some transfer gossip and some breaking news, man.
Exactly. Coach, just very quickly, you talk about those numbers there and wanting those numbers to improve, right? But from a stakeholder perspective, from a board perspective, is it easy to convince them with those numbers, or are they just looking at the league table and judging?
I'm sure all will judge. With stakeholders, with them, especially the sponsors, they will judge based on results. That's for sure. But there'll be a point of time where I have to engage them. I have to talk to them. Maybe even have a workshop with them. I mean, why not? And to tell them this is what we are trying to get at. This is what we are trying to do. But I can't blame them if they also want the results. Because at the end of the day, it's still a result-based kind of atmosphere we are having. But we need to engage them. We need to communicate with them. We need to talk to them. When things goes wrong, that's where I think knee-jerk reactions should not come in, and see what we can do better. And when things goes right, how can we get it to another level? I think it's all about communicating if it is possible and whenever possible also.
Well, what has that experience been like in terms of working with Darwin and perhaps even Tava at Balestier Khalsa? What's that been like for you?
Well, everybody talks about Tava, being in the industry for so long, but I think he's been quite candid with me. He's been very much like how a chairman would behave. Darwin is always upfront with the things that he wants to do. But the good thing about them is they understand what I'm trying to do. Even though sometimes it's tough, especially the last 3 games, we lost so narrowly when we could actually got at least a point from it. They know it is tough, but the positive side is they understand that the team is trying to do something and they can see that the team is improving. And all of us here, we are in the same boat where we don't want to give ourselves excuses saying that, okay, that is a process. Okay, it will take time. Okay, no, yes, it will take time, but let's try until we beat ourselves and try as much as possible that there won't be any more excuses.
Okay, Raushan, anything else before we move on to the next topic of discussion?
I think we found out plenty about Balestier and Coach Akbar back in the league. Shall we rewind the clock slightly?
Yeah, but because, he's spoken about this as well, his time in India. And I think that's something that I really want to touch on because it was fascinating to see a Singaporean coach always is going overseas. And it's not just, say, going to Malaysia or whatever. It's actually going quite far overseas to India, an entirely new league, an entirely new environment. What was that experience like for you, Akbar?
You never see my reaction. When you see it's exciting to see that Singaporean coach going overseas and suddenly my body like that. No, I mean, jokes aside, it's been fantastic because whenever you go to a new environment, you got to adapt, and things are very much different whenever you are overseas coaching and all that. Because especially in India, maybe the first 2 or 3 weeks, I wanted to go back home because it's so difficult to live in those conditions and all that. And I got used to it. And as time goes by, I adapted.
So was it just a case of homesickness for first couple of weeks or so? Or
no,
the
I think it's more
situation?
The entire environment. The entire environment. Because my first few months, I ended up scouting. So I went to some fishing village and all that. Wow. So there was one day, the officials all took me and I keep asking them, is there a hotel there? And they said, sure, sir, sure, no problem. Hotel, no problem. Are you sure? Yes, because it sounds like a fishing village. No problem, you just follow us. Okay. Because we had trials and all that. So then I was looking, no buildings, no nothing. Wow. Then I was asking, where's the hotel? There. There's only one small motel. There was like one small bar below with all the drunkards there. Then we had to walk in through an alley, go into the hotel. Yeah, this is your room. Wow. Let's sleep the whole night because there was some lizards and cockroaches crawling around, which is true. It's not overplaying it. And the cupboard, like in those movies, the cupboard will close slowly, those sound.
Clicking.
Well, those are the kind of things that you have to get used to in India, especially when you're on a scouting trip.
Coach, you
Fascinating.
joked about it. You joked about it when we started talking about your Indian expedition, right? Putting your chest up as when we talk about a Singaporean abroad. But it must fill you with immense pride, right? Being a Singaporean flying the flag and bloody winning the league. That deserves massive credit, no?
Yeah, I think it's a miracle. It's some may say one off or not, but it is the way it all happened. Because the year before we just managed to get off relegation by a point with 3 games left. And then the year after, I remember during my first few training sessions, the fans came and then the press came. They were laughing when I said I want to play possession-based football. They said Indians cannot play. Then so many things happened. And then the very first game, in the very first few minutes, Indian Arrows like young lions scored against us while we were building up. So all this happened and I had to just bite the bullet in a foreign country. And that's why after the last game, we had our player who had the highest number of assists, foreigner, couldn't play because of suspension. We had our centre-back foreigner, during warm-up got injured. We were down 1-0 in the first 15 minutes and half time. So I thought, what's happening? We were on top of the league for almost every week. And the last day, if East Bengal would have, and initially they won, would have lost the title. So all of this was playing, and when we won, wow, the feeling is immense. And after a few days, you realize that the only South Indian team to win, blah, 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 blah. Then you realize how much it meant to the club and those people, even the locals around it. It's a feeling I don't think so. Will I ever get that kind of feeling? But I would love to enjoy that moment and keep thinking about that moment when I had it during that time.
Incredible. Akbar, we saw Iqbal as well go across to play in India with you, right? Two questions I want to... Sorry?
Iqbal went after I left.
Yeah, sorry. Yes. Iqbal went over. Two questions that I wanna actually ask you. What's the standard of football in the I-League and ISL? And two, would you recommend Singaporeans going over to play in either one of these competitions?
You see, when I was there, the I-League was still the top league, and there was ISL by the side because you win, you go Champions League. And we had the Super Cup, where we played against Bengaluru FC and what have you. The following year, there was still the I-League. Then after I left, they officially pushed I-League down to second division, and ISL was the top division. So most of the players from the I-League went to ISL as well, even some of the national players. And unfortunately, by the time Iqbal went there, the level was a bit lower. I mean, no disrespect to Iqbal and whatever happened, Okbala, who was the coach. The level dropped slightly because most of the players have gone to ISL. And for me, if there's any Singaporean player that would need to go there, I would think it makes sense for them to go to ISL.
Okay.
But if they were to go to I-League, they have to compete in that level and try to be competitive amongst a lot of other foreigners.
Yeah.
So for them to go, if you want to think about India, to get into ISL, I think that would be something great. But having said that, ISL, the money they have, they look into foreigners with some qualities. Most of them are taking place from Premiership here and there. It's not easy. Even to coach in ISL, you have to have a certain, they have certain criteria. It's not easy.
Coach, you look back quite fondly on your time. You talked about winning the league, the dramatic circumstance. I just want to know, if not for the pandemic, do you think any chance you might have spent longer in India?
Yes, I would, because in that second year, we had to rebuild the team because 7 of our players were sold to the bigger ISL clubs, and we wanted to rebuild the team. Definitely, I would have stayed there as long as I could, because it is a project that I wanted to see, not only for the senior team, but to help with the state, to help with the youth teams, to help with everything come as a whole and see that everybody play this way right up to the senior team, and make sure I leave the club in a state where there is some flow towards the first team. Most definitely, for sure.
Coach, we talk a lot about being Singaporean, flying the flag above. I have to ask you this. Long term, do you harbor any hopes, any dreams? It must be a dream, but do you harbor any hopes of managing the Singapore national team?
Of course, definitely. Which coach wouldn't want to actually manage the national team one day? For sure. But I think I still need to get a lot more experience in club football, a lot more experience in AFC. a lot more of that before I could even think of the national team. Because no matter what you say, you need these experiences if you really want to get one level up to national team and help those players out there. Because national team, you can't train them every day. So it's a different ball game.
Yeah, he needs that talent line as well coming through, right? It's
yes.
It's a kind of process.
And you need those players actually to be playing well with their clubs week in, week out with that intensity. So it's not easy for any national coach.
Yeah. I want to we've heard so much about you, your coaching career, and your time with Balestier Khalsa as well. Thank you so much for that. I want to go on to a little bit about your personal life, and for you and the fact that your son is playing for Lion City Sailors, is playing for the Singapore national team. How special is that for you that your son Saifullah is a professional footballer, and not just a professional footballer, but he's playing for his country?
Well, I think I'm proud of what he has achieved, and hopefully he's God willing he will achieve more. For me, when he was young, when he was about 5 years old, I actually didn't want to introduce him to football because of the things I went through as a player with injuries and all that. I remember when I was injured, I left a club, and that time the ruling was 6 months you can't play, and then I need to study. So it was so many hardships. So I actually didn't want him to play football. But then one fine day, I brought him to a basketball court, and then there was this coach was training some kids, and he loved the ball, and I thought, oh, there could be something, and he started playing from there. And still, I didn't want to pressure that he should be a professional footballer. But deep inside my heart, wow, if he's one, why not? Because since I only got called up for national training, I've never got a cap. So for me to see him getting there at this age, so definitely I'm very proud of him, for sure.
And we talk about being proud. There was a recent moment where he scored the winner in Hanoi. How did that make you feel as a father watching on, but also as a coach and a fan?
As a father, I'm happy for him because he has been a little bit on the downside because of no playing time in LCS, and in the SEA Games he just got in and he couldn't start the SEA Games as well. So I was happy that he could contribute. He could have a game like he did, especially in the SEA Games. That will boost his confidence, and that would actually make him still believe that he's there. He just needs the playing time, and when he gets it, he can go up to another level. Definitely, I'm happy that as a father that he got this. As a coach, it's good that he comes on and he does something. There's an impact. So this is what a coach will want to see from a player. If you bring on someone and he has an impact, then that's a start to putting him for the next one, and the next one. So as a coach, for sure.
Does he?
As a fan, everybody likes to see him play, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was really great coming through. He's one of my favorite young players.
Thank you.
And I've spoken to him about it as well on social media. We've interviewed him as well on one of our earlier episodes of this show. Has he? You mentioned the lack of game time with the Lion City Sailors. Do you guys communicate a lot, and what kind of advice do you sort of give him?
I do communicate with him a lot in terms of whatever he has problems with Lion City. But I'm very, very, very careful in what I advise him, because I can't just advise him from a coaching point of view or from a father's point of view just bluntly. I got to know what I tell him, because I wouldn't want to confuse him with the current coaching staff that LCS is trying to introduce to him. And I can't confuse him, even if he's with the national team, with the coach, on tactics or what have you. So I'm very careful with how I talk to him and try to complement the coach's tactics to what he's doing, so that I don't confuse him, because it's actually a very dangerous line as a parent or as a coach. If you confuse, because football is so subjective, and it's easy to confuse a player.
Yeah, and imagine it's difficult for you as well, right? To try and sort of separate the role that you're a father, and obviously you love your child and you want the best for them, and then from that other side of it, to give him that sort of professional advice. I mean, it's incredibly challenging, right, Akbar?
Very, very challenging. You said it right, because every time after I give that kind of advice, I have to go out and drink like 3 cups of tea, you know. I can't have beer, so
lucky you said tea. Lucky you said tea, yeah?
But you said it spot on. You said it spot on. Very challenging. Very, very.
With that in mind, right? Would you be able? Do you think you'll be able to work with him in a professional setting? Like, let's say if he was your player, hypothetically, of course.
Yes,
I'm not saying.
I would.
Yeah.
Because why I say that? When I was in the FA, I had to take an under-14 team, because the they were 13 at that point of time. I had to take, Nasri had a team to go for Lion City. I will take the reserve players plus the under 13 players. So Saifullah and Iksan was in the team. And I had to manage this team. And that's where I learned to wear actually 3 different hats, as a coach, the father, and as a friend. Even to him and to Iksan, because they are quite close even back then. So it was tough. It was tough because I remember one game, a friendly game. At that age, a lot of parents. And people see that the coach, the father, this, that, whether play him or not. So he played well for that friendly game. And then in the 75th minute, I took him out. And I could see his face. His face was like, he was so disappointed. He was like, oh, how come you took me out? Then after he left, then I reflect on myself. I said, oh, I made the wrong move. I took him out because I fear about what other parents would think of me. But I was not fair to him. He was playing well. So that's where I started to learn on how to manage myself as a coach, as a father. And the friend part is very important if you're coaching your son in a team. It's tough, but I'm glad I got that experience.
So you feel like if you were in a professional setting and he wasn't performing, you'll be able to drop him?
Yes, for now, for sure, because I think he's professional enough now.
All right.
For now, it'll be all the. I'm sure it'll be quite apparent to see because definitely you'll be able to see whether he's performing or not performing, and you'll be able to relate and talk to him. Because I've gone through that, and I think it was a good experience. And if it happens again, let's see.
The thing is now I want to be a bit naughty and be like, is it going to be at Balestier or is Akbar going to go to LCS? I'm just trying to stir the pot.
The transfer rumor pot, is it? Coach Akbar, it's been so good having you on the show. I think you've come across telling us your favorite drink is tea. You've spoken about your pride in India, and you're such a masterful communicator with so much charisma. And we've really enjoyed the chat. We hope the listeners have enjoyed the chat as much. We wish you all the best for the remainder of the season and enjoy the time off. And listeners, do continue to like, share, and subscribe to the Rated RR podcast. We'll keep the good stuff coming. See you on the next episode.
See you guys. Hey, thanks for this. Bye-bye.